charge for the second half of the season. But, had a great team meeting this morning with everybody, and then we went out and had a little workout there. That's why I'm coming in kind of huffing and puffing right now, because we just finished. So I ran up here as fast as I could to get to you guys. But, had a great practice today. So everyone's in a good mindset right now moving forward, and I got a little intro to Houston. So that's where we are.
One of the things about, that I looked up numbers on Cam,
Yeah.
he leads the league in sack yards lost by more than 100 yards on the next quarterback. What do you attribute some of that to? Because it's losing an average of almost 8 yards a sack.
Well, it's probably, the first part is it's the number of sacks. We've taken too many sacks as an offense. And I think at times, too, there's an opportunity to throw balls away. When you're outside the pocket, you might do certain things, or when you're making plays. And I think that will come with experience of him understanding that, when do you dirt balls and do certain things, or, when is it better to try to get out of a problem instead of just getting the ball out of your hand. So I think it's a combination. I mean, you'd have to look at every play to say, this is why, if you looked at the film I've got a breakdown of, this is why sacks happen. Is it on the quarterback? Is it an offensive lineman? Is it a running back? Did a receiver, did something happen with the receiver that caused, Cam to hold the ball long? So there's a number of things that come into play. But you obviously want to, minimize the yardage you lose.
How's your involvement in game planning changed from your role before you got the interim job to now?
Well, I think, before, we had our plan on how we did things, and I was not as involved. Now I'm involved in everything. As we go through things, you look at things. When I sit with the offensive staff, you look at the plan in more details because of my role. It's drastically changed, obviously. The coaches, they put the plans together. We all sit down as a group and go over all that in great detail. And I was in those meetings before, but I didn't have as much say in this, recommendations and certain things with, I'd always speak up, but I have more say now.
Is it the play caller that leads that?
No, it's by committee. It's by, we each have our areas, of what we've done from day one of, how do you, getting ideas, putting everything together, and it's by committee. And then you go through the plan and you poke holes in it and you pick and choose certain things. You say, it's always good when everyone speaks up because not everyone sees it from a certain perspective or a certain position maybe sometimes. In the running game, all of a sudden, Luke may say something, hey, can we formation it this way to help us, things like that. So it's always a group effort.
Quandre no longer with you. Jarek Reed been added. Mm-hmm. Can you speak to maybe those moves, and then also what maybe the safety position might look like moving forward?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Quandre for everything he did here. A true pro. We've mutually parted ways, as you guys all know, but a true professional. And then, bringing in new players, it's always an opportunity, as we've talked about, of, there's going to be certain changes. And there's a position, we've been playing, with Kevin playing a little more here and there, so it's an opportunity for him to step up. And everybody else really just, making the most of every opportunity you get.
We talked before the break about the bi-week self-scout and operational changes, any of that stuff. Did you come to any conclusions about things you might want to change coming out of the bye?
Well, I think every year you go into it. It's every season you look at things, you go into the bye week, and you always evaluate what you're doing. And certain things you might have had plans with at the beginning of the year saying, hey, this is going to be core. Maybe for some reason it's not as successful as you want it to be. So maybe you kind of want to eliminate some of those things. And there's a couple things that I looked at and I said, hey, let's kind of stay away from a couple of these concepts. Maybe we're not having the success. Let's run more of something else that is, higher completion percentage that we have more success with. So there's always that every year when you get to the point. There's things you look back and say, God, this used to be, but it's players. And sometimes you look at it and you say, you had a certain, for example, a certain route concept that you might have had that guy that was really good at that route where, it was 9 of 10 in the past, and all of a sudden you have a different person in that position, and that may not be what he does best, and you've asked him to do it a couple times. And so you always look at that too sometimes of, it's great to have that time off to really take a deep breath and look at it and say, okay, why are these things not working, and how do we improve it? Do we got to formation it different, or are we better off just, we're not getting the looks that we want for that play, so you run something different.
I know you don't want to get into scheme specifics, but can you tell us some of the areas where those conversations took place?
Well, I can tell you right, third down's one of them. We have to be better on third down offensively. You talk about scoring more points and doing things, but when you're in the high 20s on third down conversion rates, it's tough to score a lot of points. You got to sustain drives, whether it's in the red area somewhere where you talk about those 4-point plays, you're kicking field goals, or you extend the drive, or is it somewhere anywhere else in the field where you want to get another opportunity. So that's a huge focus for us.
Along those lines, I think you've had 20 drives this year cross the 50 and come away with no points. Does that come down to third down as well?
That's a big part of it. When you don't capitalize on opportunities, not just on third down, but there's other plays you look at the game too where maybe there's an opportunity for an explosive play or a big run. There's a number of opportunities that get you to cross the 50, but we haven't done it consistently enough this year.
As you look to making things like more Cam friendly, would it be accurate to say that he seems to excel more on play action passes? And if so, what would you say the reason is for that?
Well, I think every time you go into a game plan, you look at what is the best way to attack a certain team. And whether it's play action, whether it's movements, whether it's drop back passes, whether it's screens, you're always looking at that. But we're really, we're looking at how to get Cam more efficient in all areas of the game, not just that. Same thing, situationally, third down. If we execute better in the red area, certain things, scoring touchdowns, things like that.
What have you seen maybe just in the last 3 games, since you came in, and I know you wanted to maybe kind of tweak some things for Cam. What have you seen in those 3 games, and how do you evaluate maybe how he's made some changes?
Well, I think, in my current role, I'm more involved with him. So, I can, I met with him this morning, and I sat down with him, and I had made a tape for him to kind of look at after watching all the tapes and kind of saying, hey, here's some things I think you could look at, and from my perspective, and here's some things you can mechanically clean up. And it's not going to just happen overnight because he's done it a certain way, like we've talked about a number of times, thousands of times, but just little things, whether it's pocket movements, whether it's release points, target line. Now, there's a number of different things you talk about, decision making, all those things, doing the next best thing when something's not there. You guys always ask about him taking off and running. That's one thing. I got an opportunity this weekend to sit around and watch the games. You see a lot of those. The quarterbacks, all of a sudden it's not there and they take off and run, and it's a positive play. They're staying ahead and down in distance. So there's a number of things that I kind of talk to him about now on a daily basis, whether it's after a practice, you just go up to him and say, hey, that's that one I talked to you about. Hey, if you just stay on the move instead of trying to force it, it's 2nd and 6 instead of being, 2nd and 10, things like that. So there's constant communication with him. But the great thing with Cam is that he wants to be great, and he wants that input on a daily basis.
In terms of needing more explosive plays, when you design certain things and you're hoping to get those explosive plays, is it more, catch a 10-yard pass and run 20 more yards with it, or is it more of throw it further down the field and let your guy come up with it?
It's really a combination of all those things, because there is a number of times, you design a play and maybe it's a protection breakdown, whether it's a receiver not getting to the right location, whether it's a quarterback decision. There's a number of different things that come up, in those things, and of why it's not an explosive play. Is it a missed throw? There's a number of different things. Or after you catch the ball, do you get upfield or do you keep coming across? So there's a number of little things that, prevent you from having those explosive plays. So it's not just one thing.
How has Cam done leading receivers to create some of those, hitting them in the spot and giving them a ball that they can run with?
I think he's done a decent job with it. I think there's going to be always a couple throws that you say, if it was just a little further out in front of him, maybe it would have been that catch and run up, like for a slant, for example. If you throw it to his back hip, obviously he's slowing down, where if you kept it out front of him, he catches it and goes. So there's a number of different reasons why plays aren't explosive.
As the guys start to get back in the building, how are things looking with Jeffrey Simmons, Calvin Ridley, 2 guys that obviously...
They're working extremely hard. That's all I'm going to say right now is these guys are, we've been talking about it for weeks, how hard they work. So as soon as they can be out there to help the team and play at 100%, and they know they can go out there and cut it loose and be themselves, they're going to be out there. But they're working extremely hard.
When you took over, you expanded individual period. Can you remind me from what to what, and have you stuck with that?
Yeah, we have an individual period of 12 minutes. It used to be 7, and we've stuck with it. Yes.
How much, I understand that's the nature of it, and you have limited practice time. How much can a guy, I know a lot of it's touching up technique. How much can somebody like Cam get done in 3 12-minute periods in a week with the new footwork stuff or with working on something like that?
Well, you get plenty of throws in. I mean, when you go into the individual period, it's up tempo. And if you look at how we do it, you split it up to where who is he throwing to, getting the extra throws, and that was the main reason why we did that, to get more opportunities. And before we had taken, during a defensive period, you can go to the side while the defense is out there, do the same thing. But this was just a way to just do it more in a different timing of practice and getting more positions to do certain things individually. But he gets I don't have a pitch count to be exactly how many throws he gets in that extra time period, because there's different focuses each day, whether it's a first, second down day, whether it's a third down day, whether it's a red area day. So that's always different. But I think it really helps him, because in practice, if you don't get all those reps, you go in a 7-7 or a team rep, you're throwing to one guy. And this way we can go through a progression like on Fridays. You can go through a pass play in the red area and go through and get each route run very quickly. He gets 4 or 5 throws and it's the same play, but he gets each throw possible. So he can go through the progression, and you get that a number of times through the red area concepts that we're running. So I think
He does have, quote unquote, little periods of downtime where he gets some time to work on that as well, like special teams periods and stuff.
Oh yeah, you have all that. He's, the quarterbacks, it's an individual period all the time whenever special teams are going. So he's got a ton of time. The problem with it in the special teams period is that with depending on what phase it is, certain skilled players are involved in the kicking game, so you can't get those throws. So we try to do as much as we can throughout the entire practice. So any extra throws he can get, he's going to try to, whether it's during a special teams period, whether it's a defense period, or during those individual periods, we get the extra throws that we need.
You mentioned Winston. How do you like how he's developed, how important now he may get some more opportunities for him to continue to show improvement?
Well, you love the way he flies around and the way he practices and the way he plays the game. And I think it's like any other young player, it's experience. The more reps you get at something, the more comfortable you are playing in the system, the faster you're going to play. But I think he's in a good spot.
As you've gotten to know like some of the defensive players, like what are some of the things that you may have discovered in getting to know Tavondre Sweat?
Wait, ask me one more time.
As far as like now that you're the head coach, right? You getting to know more defensive guys. So
Yeah.
as you've gotten to know Tavondre Sweat, like what are some of the things that you may not have known about maybe his work ethic or his play or anything like that?
Well, I think I pay closer attention to every detail of practice. When you're an offensive-minded guy, you're focusing on those things, and I think it's just great to have the conversations in between periods or meetings. Because I sit in certain defensive meetings at times, so you just learn a lot about the players, and you learn, I think, how to push the right buttons with the player. That's the key thing is how do you get these guys to go out there and play at a certain level, and so I've learned a lot about these guys on the defense side in the last 3 weeks.
As far as Sweat specifically, as far as his work ethic or anything like that, like what did you learn from watching him more closely?
Well,
I
I think he works extremely hard. He's pushing. We're trying to push him to the next level. Like every player you are on the team, you're trying to push these guys. And I think the defense staff, the entire staff, that's what they do. They go out there and they push these guys to be the best players possible.
From building for the future standpoint, Mike, like what do you challenge these guys to show over the next 8 games relative to an evaluation standpoint?
Well, I think anytime you have an opportunity to play a game in the NFL, it's an honor and privilege. So you always go out there and tell these players, you're going out to play your best game the next game. Regardless of what your record is, regardless of where it is in the season, you say the same thing early in the season as you do late in the year. It's an opportunity to go out there and show who you are and what it means for you to play the game.
To your evaluation or to your eye, what does good enough look like or success look like for Dan and JC specifically at the tackle spots?
What is good enough? Well, that's a tough position these days with the talent on the edge. And they have got a great challenge this week with the pass rushers they've got in Houston. And so there's going to be give and take. And I think anytime you evaluate it, they're going to get beat. That's going to happen. Every player is going to get beat at some point in time. But I think you always got to look at them and say, are you using all the little techniques? Are you doing all the little things right to give yourself a chance to succeed? And I think that's one thing that you always look at when you get in here on Monday mornings and watch the game film, or how they practice during the week. And that's why you're always, like an earlier question, you're always pushing these guys to be the best they possibly can be, because it's a great challenge every week. And they're going to get beat at some time on the edge. There are some phenomenal pass rushers, and it's not easy. And the thing back in the days, you used to say, okay, each team has one. So, you put chip help over there, you can slide certain things. But now you play a team like we're playing this week, and they got help on both edges. You got to help both edges at times. So it's that's part of our job too, to make sure we help these guys. And that a good running game helps that also.
Are they close to hitting that standard?
Yeah, I think there's the ups. I think every game you look at, there's a couple plays you look back and say, hey, you can do this better, definitely. And they'd be the first to tell you. And I think that's the one big thing is, you talk about communication. I love the way the offensive line has communicated with me during the games, is because I talked to them about that early on. It's just, hey, I want your feedback on why things work, why things don't work. And if you get beat, just let's be brutally honest with each other and say, listen, I had a poor set, I had a poor technique in the run game, whatever that is, but they work extremely hard.
Say, I know you referenced third downs earlier, but on first downs, aside from penalties, what are some of the things you think that have kind of held the offense back on first downs and set you up?
You could. I could go on forever on that one. Just because there's every play there could be a different reason why it's not working. Are you running the ball into a pressure that's not ideal? Guys just make plays. You get beat. Is it a poor decision? Do you not win a one-on-one matchup outside? So that can go on. You look at every play, you could critique that and say, okay, this is why it doesn't work. But that's the difference of winning and losing in some games. And it's about making, how do you win your one-on-one battles? And that's why the individual period is so important, I think, is that how do you increase the number of times you win your one-on-one battles in a game?
You may have just answered this, but specifically, I guess, in the run game on those first downs, any one or two things in particular that sort of stand out?
No, like I said, that's where it could go into every play is a reason why it's not working. You could say, hey, the 3 technique beat the guard, or the tight end didn't, have the right. You go on. There's a reason why every play doesn't work. So, and it's always different. And then sometimes, hey, you got to say, give them credit. They made a heck of a play. All right. Thank you guys very much.
Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see y'all later. All right.